Tonight, miners stranded for hours as fog grounds flights, and a weekend police crackdown to target dangerous driving.
With the latest from around the region, your nightly news with Louise Hedger begins now.
Good evening. Dozens of Oz Minerals workers have spent the day stranded at Port Augusta after their aircraft was forced to turn around due to bad weather. The event caused by increased fog and reduced visibility in the area around the Carrapateena mine.
A sea of high-vis inside and outside of the Port Augusta airport as an empty plane sits grounded on the tarmac.
Just can't get off the ground, you can't see nothing around the country.
After leaving Adelaide at dawn, pilots got the call that foggy conditions near the Carrapateena mine meant the plane could not safely land. Stopping in nearby Port Augusta, the only option for the flight until the weather improved. The disruption leaving around 60 Oz Minerals employees stranded for more than 4 hours. Local food trucks coming to the rescue.
When their plane has technical difficulties, we drop everything, come help them.
Coffees, pastries and soups quickly snapped up.
We've sold out of everything we have available.
As miners anxiously awaited calls with the all clear for takeoff. The company says these type of incidents aren't uncommon in the winter months.
This is the second time we've helped our Oz Minerals.
Despite being grounded here for a number of hours, Oz Minerals officials say they expect the cloud cover to clear and the plane be back in the air by night time. The plane landing safely at Carrapateena in the early afternoon. Garth Burley, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Officers from the Barrier Police District will be cracking down on dangerous driving this weekend, with the roads expected to be busier as school holidays come to an end. It will be a joint operation with the Barrier Police District and Victoria Police.
It's a major crackdown involving 2 state police services they're calling Operation Hops.
Road safety is a national issue. We work together, especially in these sort of operations, and also keep our focus on crime as well.
The cross-border traffic exercise between New South Wales and Victoria Police will see an increased presence around the Wentworth area this weekend, involving Barrier Police District and their Victoria colleagues from across the Murray.
We'll cover the highways, the towns, the back roads, looking at speed, fatigue, and alcohol and drug impaired drivers.
Police will be hunting for signs of drug trafficking too, following a recent number of detections across the far west. In April, police uncovered 57 kilograms of cannabis in a van, which was passing through Broken Hill early one morning.
And this weekend, along the Victorian border, whether you're in New South Wales or Victoria, you've got a high chance of being pulled up by the cops.
There will be random breath and drug tests, with police warning that if you take the risk, it's very likely you'll suffer the consequences. Drivers urged to take extra caution on our roads, as many travellers make their way home from holidays, with school holidays almost over.
Please take the appropriate breaks on your trip so you get home safely, your family gets home safely, and other road users are safe.
Patrick Ryankey, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Public hearings as part of a special commission into the use of the drug ice are being held in Broken Hill this week. The commission is hearing about the impacts crystal methamphetamine has on the region and what can be done to help those impacted. Hearing from a number of key witnesses, including police, doctors and former drug users. Broken Hill has no drug rehabilitation provider. The nearest is 715 kilometres away. The commission's recommendations will be provided to the government in January. More than 600 fines have been issued at quarantine stations in South Australia this school holidays as the state government cracks down on fruit fly infestations. Over 1,200 kilograms of fruit and vegetables have been seized at a number of checkpoints. The government says the tough measures are necessary to prevent the potential damage of the state's entire horticultural industry. SA Health has revealed the number of South Australian flu cases this year has risen to more than 20,000. Doctors in regional areas are warning more needs to be done to stop the spread of the disease.
It's the horror flu season showing no signs of stopping.
This year flu season is the worst as compared to other years.
The effects of the possibly deadly virus just as profound in the country as in the city.
I've seen a good few families, they're all infected with influenza A, mother, children's, even father, everybody.
This time last year, over 1,500 cases of the flu were reported in South Australia. This year, more than 20,400.
Around 10% of those people have required to go to be hospitalised.
Of all those cases, the flu has claimed the lives of 92 people, including 3 already this month, and health experts expect that number to rise.
Most of the deaths have occurred in older people, people over 65 and over.
Doctors say people infected can inadvertently spread the virus in schools, businesses and even waiting rooms at medical centres. They're urging anyone sick to think twice before attending public places.
Prevention is better. They should be isolated even in the surgery.
SA Health is hoping a new advertising campaign will help get their message across. The advice from experts, a clean bill of nutrition and hygiene, as well as a vaccination, will give you the best chance of beating the flu.
I think everybody should be immunised fully to prevent them.
Garth Burley, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
The Clare Valley's historic racing club is in danger of closing due to a cost blowout from water usage. The club is attributing its financial woes to low water allocation, which has resulted in some hefty fines.
Don Williams holds an important connection to the Clare Valley Racing Club. His family has been part of the racing community for 3 generations. But sadly, the club is treading water. Its finances have been drying up after being flooded with overdue water bills.
It'd be good to sort something out. That's what our aim is, to make it easier for everybody.
We had one fine of 13,000, but this year, as I said, it'll be way more.
The club has been struggling to remain under its 19,950 kilolitre allocation, saying it's a measly amount, compared with the 150,000 allocated to the Oakbank Racecourse in the Adelaide Hills.
The crux of the matter is we were allocated just under 20 megalitres, and in normal years we use 5 megs more.
The Department of Environment and Water says the regulations exist to protect other users and to ensure the safety of other ecological assets.
We have to make sure that the use from that well is not going to impact one of those other neighbouring properties.
The club says the drought has heavily impacted its water consumption, and a certain quality is needed to prevent occupational hazards from endangering riders.
If a horse breaks down in a race and falls, the jockey could get badly injured or even in worst case scenario killed.
But for now the club will have to hold its horses. Dominic Beaton, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Still to come tonight, a pest resistant to insecticide threatens South Australian crops and concerns over the future of Tunarama. Welcome back. Red-legged earth mites are damaging crops across the Spencer Gulf, according to farmers. Scientists say optimal weather patterns for their survival and their increasing resistance to insecticides is causing their numbers to rise.
These little red critters are proving to be a mighty big problem for South Australian farmers. This year's weather cooking up a perfect storm for a synchronous hatching of the red-legged earth mite.
I think where growers have actually noticed it more this year is the way the season has actually progressed.
The red-legged earth mite hatches from summer diapause after receiving the right combination of cool temperatures.
Farmers on the York and Eyre Peninsula are feeling the bite, with primary industries at Region SA reporting significant crop damage. The pest causing damage to paddock edges and sandy rises.
Prevalent in the pulse or legume crops and canola. It basically just puts that plant under stress if there's high enough numbers.
Farmers also experiencing a rise in insecticide resistance.
Resistant individuals in the population that are not killed, and so you get less control than you otherwise would.
But there is some advice to curb the issue. Sardi is urging farmers to assess risk on a paddock-by-paddock basis and not use the same type of chemical 2 times in a row.
Growers need to actually think about that a little bit more, rotate the chemistry as best they can, but also don't just throw an insecticide out there for the fun of it.
Dominic Beaton, 7 Spencer Golf News.
A York Peninsula man has been arrested for breaking into 2 properties in Maitland. Last Friday afternoon, police attended 2 properties after reports wallets, cash, handbags, laptops and a Holden ute was stolen. Police allege the goods were then located at a property owned by a 33-year-old man in Port Pirie. The man was refused bail and attended Port Pirie Magistrates Court, where he was remanded in custody. He's expected to face court again in November. The latest round of budget cuts for Port Lincoln's famed Tunarama Festival has organisers concerned for its future. The local council has cut almost half of the festival's funding for next year.
The Tunarama Festival attracts thousands of visitors to the Port Lincoln region, injecting millions of dollars into the local economy. But recent budget cuts have seen financial strain fall upon the time-honoured event.
Funding was cut this year by council quite dramatically, so less than 50%. And we went back for another try at getting funding just to run the Monday.
Organisers say they were planning to run an extra day of the festival, with a cruise ship set to drop anchor in the town the day after the festival traditionally ends. But now that idea is up in the air.
We get opportunity to showcase so much of our local produce and just our local industry through Tunarama.
The council says it rejected the request for an additional $7,000 the festival says is needed to run the extra day, as it was unable to find spare funds in the business plan.
It's been a slow reduction over a number of years. We did have funding of $30,000 for a 4-year period at one point, but this year we've got $10,000 in cash, $15,000 in kind.
The Tunarama Festival is competing for funds against the growing number of events popping up around the region.
It has been a significant cut, and we will be looking for additional funding from other sources.
While it may not be able to extend for a longer time, the event is hoping to include a multicultural aspect into next year's event to showcase the town's diversity.
Tunarama Festival falls on the same weekend as the Chinese New Year, so we're hoping to incorporate some Asian influence, Chinese lanterns and a moon lantern ceremony.
Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Port Lincoln is set to unveil its latest statue, with builders frantically working on the final touches. The 2.5-metre bronze sculpture is set to honour the town's rich fishing history and is expected to be completed by next weekend.
The 1950s saw Port Lincoln buzzing with excitement, hundreds moving to the coastal town trying to get work in the fishing industry, transforming it into what it is today.
At the time tuna polling was at its peak, this is where there was the whole flotilla of tuna boats in this bay.
Over half a century on, and the town's fishing history is set to be immortalised in a 1-tonne bronze sculpture. Artist Ken Martin taking on the Mammoth project.
We were only going to get one man to do this job. As you know, he did Ivy Diva just down the road there a bit, and that's flawless. And we know he could do the same thing with what we've got here.
The $250,000 sculpture was first proposed back in 2016. A year later, and organisers were given the tick of approval.
After much consultation with industry and people who were involved with tuna polling, a maquette or a miniature 3D design was produced and then confirmed as to the design that we would go with.
With work here on the foreshore almost complete, the only thing left to do is to bring in the statue. The all-important question, which way will it face?
It will be facing towards Tasman Terrace, and that will give the illusion of it floating on the water.
An official unveiling of the sculpture will be held next Sunday. Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Stay with us after the break. We'll have the latest fuel prices and Britt will join us with the weather. Hello again. Time now for a look at how things are shaping up when we head to the Bowser. Here's Pat in Broken Hill.
Well, as school holidays come to an end, majority of petrol prices are starting to go back down. Kicking off with a look at unleaded, and Port Lincoln is the first of many to see green. The town seeing a 4-cent drop from last week to now average $1.45. Whyalla has also enjoyed a hefty decrease, going down by 3 to only be paying a cheap $1.36. In Port Augusta, locals are paying $1.39 a litre, 2 cents less than the previous week. Port Pirie is also seeing green, but not a big drop in the price. Kadina was one of the rare townships to see a jump. A 5-cent spike sees motorists there paying $1.44. Here in Broken Hill, we've also seen red. A jump of about a cent sees us paying the most on the board at $1.47. Adelaide Cycle is on the downward trend. The City of Churches has gone down substantially from $1.51 to $1.27. That's a 24-cent decline. Turning over to diesel now, and it's a mixed bag. Port Lincoln has broken even at $1.50. The rest of the Spencer Gulf is hovering around the same price. Whyalla, Port Augusta and Port Pirie are all averaging $1.48 a litre, despite some slight increases. Kadina is a cent dearer and very close to paying $1.50. At long last, Broken Hill has seen some green, but it doesn't get any smaller than a change of 0.1. Adelaide rounds out the board, averaging $1.43, after also seeing a touch of green. Finishing off with a look at Autogas, not much to report here. Port Lincoln is even Steven at 92 cents a litre, Whyalla is a cent more after a spike. Port Augusta and Kadina are on 89, Broken Hill 2 cents cheaper at 87. Port Pirie was the best performer, falling by 4 cents. Adelaide has had a quiet week, but still only paying a staggering 79 cents. Now, of course, remember that these prices are the regional averages and they do not reflect any one particular outlet. Be safe on the roads if you are travelling back home from school holidays, and a reminder that if you find a spot that does sell unleaded, auto gas or diesel for cheaper, be sure to let us know on our Facebook page.
Now for the rest of the week's weather, here's Britt Aylen.
Thanks, Lou, and good evening. After a foggy start, it's been a cloudy day today with showers over some parts. Port Augusta, Whyalla and Port Lincoln all reached tops of 16 today, Broken Hill and Adelaide 15, Port Pirie 14. From the satellite, we can see the high pressure system over the north of South Australia, where it will continue to move east tomorrow. A cold front crossed the Gulf earlier today, with another coming our way tomorrow. And speaking of tomorrow, let's look to the Gulf waters with northwesterly winds at up to 20 knots and seas at 1.5 metres. And we'll see mostly fine conditions across the region, with fairly strong winds becoming lighter in the late evening. Slightly warmer maximums though, Port Augusta and Whyalla both 18, Woodna 17, Port Lincoln, Corn, Broken Hill, Port Pirie, Cleve and Kadina all 16 degrees, Coffin Bay a top of 15, Clare 12. And now let's look ahead to later in the week. Port Lincoln expecting sunny conditions on Friday with rain and wind across the weekend. Cleve and Woodna both sunny on Friday with strong winds expected Saturday ahead of a fine day on Sunday. Whyalla, Port Augusta and Kadina looking much the same, a mostly sunny Friday with strong winds to start the weekend, easing on Sunday. And similar conditions at Port Pirie, Clare and Broken Hill as well. Friday mostly sunny, strong gusty winds on Saturday with a mostly fine day expected on Sunday. And with that, Louise, it's back to you.
Lovely, thanks for that, Britt. That's your local news this Wednesday. Thanks for joining us. We'll have updates later, but until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.